Peace, 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 Black Butterfly. You say you watching, the Peter Tosh. Okay, right on. Another important puzzle piece. Okay, bet. Let me see if I can get Tubi on my TV. The Peter Tosh. Bet. You say, oh yeah, it's a documentary. Okay, I'll make myself a note. Hope all is well out there in the cyber world. Okay, good, good. Thank you, Black Butterfly. Okay, okay. On Tubi. All right, so I'm trying to wait and give a moment, see if people getting notified if they want to come in before we get started. Peace, Lisa. So as you're coming in, if share the live with your network, hit the like button coming in, all that good stuff. And we're gonna get this thing rolling here. So he was 19, took him out in 1987. Very interesting. Okay. Peace, Akana. How y'all doing? I hope y'all making it prosperous. Good to hear from you. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out, Black Butterfly. I didn't know I don't know much about um Peter Tosh, but I've heard of him, but I don't know his whole story. So peace, Gita Life. Oh, let me show you something, Gita. Poetic Heart. Peace, peace. Oh, okay. Say you yes, I feel you say sleepy tonight. Okay. Yes, come and check the replay. By the way, I got your daughter's book came in the mail. So when I get a chance, I'll put up something up on TikTok. Uh Akana say, okay, on the move. All right. That is the theme of this season, on the move. There's a lot of movement going on. And with that in mind, I'm gonna say this. What I have to share tonight is not profound. So I don't want to everybody to get your hopes up because I know the title is kind of a fly title. Uranus and Gemini. God, G.O.D is a frequency. I mean, you're welcome. You're welcome, Gita Life. So many of you all who resonate with how I get down, this title, you've already more than likely had this revelation. But I have a quote up here from Idris Shah, and it is wisdom is when you understand what previously you only knew. Wisdom is when you understand what previously you only knew. And that is one of the most profound yet simple statements that exists. You can know a lot of stuff, you know. I've got this library and all these books around the house because I do value knowledge. I want to know what I don't know. But knowledge is one thing, but wisdom is another. And wisdom comes overtime. It comes with toiling over something and not even consciously toiling with it, but subconsciously. Like you may get introduced to something, and then you're like, "Oh, I learned something new, some new knowledge," but it has not um it has not sank all the way down to sank. Is that the proper tense? Sunk. It has not sunk all the way down to where it is at the bottom where it is now. It's a something I understand, underworld, understand, embedded into my subconscious. Tonight I want to just present something that for me came back up, and it's something that I've already kind of had this revelation, but it's different when it sinks to another level of depth and you're like, "Oh, I feel this. I feel this." Um Yeah, kind of say after the mistakes and trauma, yes, the learning that comes from it. Um, so I I prepared some notes this evening, and so if you see me looking down, I'm reading my notes that I wrote out, and so we won't be here long, and my mind is running now trying to think of what did what all did you know how it goes with me. There's always going to be something I forget and leave out, but either way. We kick it off with this. Uranus in Gemini helps us focus more on the workings of the radio, realizing that as man, I didn't proofread this. Realizing that as we have grown in our journey, individual journeys, the acceptance of the call for spiritual maturity, which occurs while you live in the real world, not secluded somewhere trying to hide from it. Okay, let me read that again. Uranus in Gemini, and I'm gonna have to clean it up as I'm reading it. Uranus in Gemini helps us focus more on the workings of the radio. Now, of course, I'm speaking in metaphor. When I say a radio, think about what I'm saying. Back in the day, you'd be driving and you get too far out of the bandwidth of your local station and you get the static, right? And you're getting close to Charlotte. Let's say let's Charlotte. And you kind of hear 98 FM coming in. What's their station? Oh, I forgot it. Oh, WPPG or something like that, the big station in Charlotte, the main station. And you start hearing some different music coming in. It's like you kind of hearing the local artists that they may be kind of pushing on their radio, and you're hearing that they play more East Coast, New York type of boom bap hip hop, and you're like, oh man, I know I must be this. How I know I'm getting close to Charlotte, cause the radio is starting to tune in to the frequency of that area. So Uranus and Gemini helps us focus more on the workings of the radio because the radio has to have all of the necessary components to be able to pick up the frequency so that the music can then be played and enjoyed. The frequency is being sent because the radio station has 50 to 100,000 what kilowatts, what they call it, And that range, that level of amplitude pushes that signal out maybe, you know, 50 miles. It may push it out, for some, it may push it out almost 100 miles. And so it's about the ability of the radio, which includes the antenna, because the antenna is what is allowing the signal to get picked up to be played on the radio. So Uranus and Gemini helps us focus more on the workings of the radio, realizing that as we have grown in our that this is a poorly, I didn't structure this sentence right. Realizing that, and I'm gonna reword it, that our individual journeys include or involve the acceptance of the call for spiritual maturity. And spiritual maturity involves your so-called real or mundane life. It is easy to have a spiritual path, so to speak, when you can be able to hide from life, the basic rigors of life. But a true path is life itself, is the spiritual journey. And in the midst of being in what seems many times to just be just run of the mill, dealing with the day to day, da 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 da, that's the magic of finding that the actual nuggets and the essence within that. And in the midst of all of that, making sure that the components of your radio are functioning properly. So what am I alluding to when I say radio? The human brain. Now, a lot of time when we get into our spiritual conversations, and let's just be clear on the word spirit, it means breath. That's what spirit means, breath. But if we're going to take it connotatively how we use it, typically when we get into these conversations about spiritual matters, we have come to a point where we have maligned the brain. We have turned the brain into the enemy because the brain is, what keeps us trapped down here and all the stuff you hear. But the absolute value is that the brain is a multifunctional, complex antenna that is picking up and sending out signals. And that brain is a major part of the radio. Your whole being is a radio in one regard. You're picking up and playing signals. I've talked about before. Shalom, good brother. I'm gonna have to call you, man. Check up on you and the fam. Um, in where was I about to go? I was talking about uh frequency, radio. It'll come back to me. Um, oh yeah, your whole in essence, your whole being is like a radio. We're receiving and transmitting signals. Oh, this is where I was about to go. And I have said before that the cosmos, God, if you will, is a song. And I pointed out, we looked at um, some of the Hebrew representations of music. And we made the correlation to how when we're studying astrology, life, everything. What we're looking at is a musical composition. And a musical composition consists of what? Sounds, and sounds are frequencies. We talked about how all the planets actually have sounds that they give off or make. There's a book called Music of the Spheres. Um, and so everything has been pointing back to this basic realization. So, what is, if we're talking about radios and signals and such, then we're talking about frequency, right? So, what's a frequency? The measurement of how often something happens over a period of time. This definition does not speak to any emotion, nor does it identify a good or a bad. Instead, it describes the relationship between polarities. Because for there to be a frequency, there has to be a up and or ascension and a descension. And the continuation or the looping of this relationship, up, down, is what creates a frequency. All this stuff, we're going to circle back to it. What is a resonant frequency? The natural frequency where a medium vibrates at the highest amplitude. So a lot of times we're saying, okay, we need to, tap into our God mind and uh putting on the mind of God or things of that nature. But if you think at a symbolic level about such things as Kabbalah and just the structure of the front side of the tree, how before there's a Kether, there is a storm cloud called Ain Soph Ur. And it's a storm cloud because everything, all potential, which becomes no thing, is commingling. There's a milieu of every possibility is unfolding at the same time in Ain Soph Ur. So that's why it's chaos. Ain Soph Ur gives us in our finite human minds some type of idea of what the all is. It is not a particular frequency, it is all frequencies. It is not one bandwidth, it is all potential bandwidths. It is everything unfolding at one time or everything existing at one time. But because they all exist, it is no thing because there's no differentiation yet. So part of this realization that God is a frequency, it is saying, no, God is all potential. But what we're figuring out is what aspect of God we're choosing to resonate at. And that becomes your idea of your God is what you choose to resonate with or what naturally matches your resonant frequency. I hope I'm making sense. If God is all everything, it's the unfathomable, right? It's everywhere and nowhere. Then what we're actually doing is figuring out which frequency of all this potential we choose to resonate with or vibrate at. It is not good. It is not bad. It is where are you at defines God. Okay. I've come to contemplate the all from this perspective, the generator of all possible frequencies, with all of creation, including humanity, as variations of the all through the resonance with particular frequencies. So basically what I just said. Now, so like I said, ain't nothing I'm saying tonight really profound. It's stuff y'all already know. Cause I feel like the audience that really sits with me, I feel like it's another echelon of thinkers. So I know for y'all that this ain't nothing new. Here's something that y'all are probably very familiar with, the Kabbalion. And the first axiom is the principle, no, it is the principle of mentalism. It just simply says the all is mind, the universe is mental. This principle embodies the truth that all is mind. It explains that the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances which we know under the terms of the material universe, the phenomena of life, matter, energy, and in short, all that is apparent in our material senses is spirit, which in itself is unknowable and undefinable, but which may be considered and thought of as an universe, infinite living mind. So these things have already these conclusions have already been arrived at. But like I said, what I am presenting is a certain level of understanding. Like like again, stuff, but then you keep living and you feel it and at a deeper level. Like this is it's frequency. And when we get to this level of understanding that everything is about frequency, it changes how we look and approach everything: health and wellness, relationship, um, finances, the evolution of a soul, everything comes down to the simple realization it's all frequency. So I wanted to throw this out because in my journey thus far, right now as I speak, I'm entering into what's called your Chiron return. And I had a client today that was in my age group, and we were talking about she's also an astrologer, and we were talking about the value of having lived wisdom, and even with knowing astrology, there's a difference between knowing it and being able to actually reflect back on transits because you've had enough data, you've lived a certain amount. You know, you're not speculating on a Saturn return, you've lived it. So you have data, then you've been able to observe other people. You're not speculating on the midlife crisis because you've lived it. You're not speculating on other transits and things because you have actual lived experience. It's priceless. And throughout this journey, for me, this where you see me today, I've told this story many times. It began in 2011, and it began with the Pluto was in Capricorn, Saturn was in Libra, Jupiter was probably in, may have been in Libra too. Jupiter may have been in Libra, but and Uranus had just made its ingress into Aries. So we had this big T square, and that just turned my life on its head. And so what are we talking? What is this 2025? So in this 14-year journey for me, I have been, and probably you could consider have been, an atheist at one point, an agnostic. They give all these titles, and so I'm just giving these as to give you um points of measurement, just kind of where my mind might have been leaning. And I always tell the story my old man told me, my first master teacher, the Leo whose birthday is coming up soon. My first master teacher, my father, handed me that Blavatsky book and told me, son, be careful. This can make you lose, how'd he say it? This can drive you to not to stop believing in God. And I always remember that, you know, um, and I ended up going through that. And then I remember coming back and, and kind of moving from an extreme to a back towards a middle path. And all of this has kind of led up to today, and not suggesting by any stretch of the imagination that I have arrived, but it's just to say what led up to where I am today. Now my perspective is there is an all force out there, right? Because when you kind of consider yourself to be like an atheist, it's like there ain't nothing out there. It's just me. But no, there is an all out there. But back to the Kabbalion. Simple stuff. Back to the Kabbalion. The law of correspondence. Where is that? 113. We go back to what we already know, and we get grounded deeper in understanding. The great second Hermetic principle embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life, and being. The truth is a truth because of all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source, and the same laws, principles, and characteristics apply to each unit or combination of units. Where does it get to the main that uh that which is above is below is what I'm trying to get to. Uh Either way, that's the summary of it. The principle of correspondence basically says in a nutshell that that which is above is the same as that which is below. It's where we simply say as above so below. So when we're in a more religious mindset, and religion by the standard um identity of religion or definition, we tend to focus more on God out there. And then when you get into occult studies, right? Then it becomes God is only in here. And what I had to do was find my middle path. Now, it's hard to find, but in some Kabbalistic studies, it says it that the middle path is the perfect path. Now, people will argue and debate that, but it's not even for debate because it's perfect for whom it's perfect for. For me, my path is to try to find the middle. And so what happened was I went from the extreme of I ain't nothing out there, and then the other extreme is all in here to really come back to the center of as above, so below. And that in itself denotes a frequency above, below. God is a frequency. It's all frequency. And then, and I was going to do a separate video, but I'm just going to say it here, and maybe I'll still do another one. But we are in a place, I feel, with this Uranus and Gemini, and this is just the opening act because Uranus has got to make its retrograde, um, uh, make its re-ingress back into Taurus one final time. But when this thing solidifies its ingress into Gemini, it helps us come to a realization that we are in the place now to upload God. Like if I were to have recorded this video on my camera, I then got to move the files over onto my other computer that will allow me to edit. I get on Adobe, I edit, P Sage, I edit, and then I export it, right? But then for me to get the video to this platform, I would then have to upload it. Now, if we utilized or have been attempting to do our individual work, then we've been downloading God, God frequencies. We've been downloading it, right? But now with Uranus and Gemini, it is time to upload the files. It is time to show what work has been going on. It is time to bring it online. That's where we at. And we are showing what frequency we're displaying, what frequency we're resonating with. Yeah. I don't know why this erased. Resonant frequency. Okay. So I'm gonna jump here because now we're dealing with the as above, so below. But now we got to deal with the part where we think of God as good from a religious standpoint. Devil is bad. So we go and reread. I'm gonna say this too. I don't read books cover to cover, including the Bible. I don't read nothing cover to cover because you don't learn nothing. People who peace God science, people who can brag about reading the Bible cover to cover. Nothing's absolute, but I'm gonna tell you, oftentimes they know Nathan about that book. And a lot of times it came from them being part of some rigorous religious background where it was a lot of emphasis on rote learning, but able to read something, recite it and repeat it and remember it, such and such. And leaves them with this, for some, this great distaste. I never had that. I didn't grow up in a religiously strict and, you're gonna go to pray 27 times and we're going over to take Pastor Goutfoot some chicken. None of that. We wasn't, so I wasn't raised on reading the book cover to cover. So when I pull these things out, I just be picking through, right? Just like I do any other book. And I find what I'm supposed to find at a particular time. So that's just a little sidebar. When you studying, many times if you want to retain something, go and read something that is pertinent in that moment, something that you're curious about, something you want to learn about, and it will stick in your consciousness. So I'm gonna read something out of the book of Job in the Old Testament in the Bible. It's the opening act. Um, we begin with chapter 1, verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. 7. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. 8. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. Stop here for a minute. We normally think of Satan as the one as the tempter, right? It's interesting in the way this story is presented that he's not the one who proposes the wager. And then it's funny. It's almost like this is like his third person because it's, and the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant God, servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God, as if it's like his third person. So it's a lot of things get. This is why you shouldn't read these things verbatim, because this is a play, but we can glean still deep meaning out of this. One that feareth God and escheweth evil. 9. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Once again, God is like his third person. It's like, are you talking to what is supposed to be God? Or y'all talking about what y'all consider to be God? Interesting. 10. Has not thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work his hands, and his substance and increased in the land. So now this personalizes it and makes it seem like he's speaking directly to his competitor, or the other person he'll be waging the bet against. 11. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. According to this, the good made a wager with the bad. And this poor dude, Job, got caught in the crossfire. So, what's interesting is that when you look at your chart, there is a dance between will and fate always. You don't have control over everything. You don't. Some things, part of the contract is you have to walk into things and you have to live through things in this life that are beyond your human capacity to control it. Will deals with your ability to respond and initiate an energetic exchange through your actions. That's will. So here we see something similar to like when we have a hard aspect in a chart or a hard transit that comes up. Here, Job gets caught in a crossfire between a wager. This is almost like the sun square Saturn or the sun opposite Saturn. That's a great way to that you, because the sun we would associate with good, right? And Saturn we would associate with bad because, oh, the bitter cold of winter and frigid, grim reaper. But here we are in between that. We become Job in between two hard, two planets who have this hard aspect. And then we live out the movement or the reality of frequency. The peak is opposite the decline. God, who is considered to be good, is working with the so-called adversary, Satan. It's not a contentious conversation. It's like a gentleman's bet. Satan, where you been? Man, walking up and through the earth. And then there are keys in the scripture. Earth for one, this is not an absolute. Earth, this is earth. So Satan moving through the human vessel, looking for weaknesses to test you. Saturn, testing you, testing you. And then there's God, which we could also associate with Jupiter, because we think Jupiter is benefic, right? Well, look at what's going on right now, where Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, but it's in a square with Saturn, the taskmaster, the tester, with Jupiter, the the grand visor of abundance. And so we're caught in between a frequency, the ebb and flow. And even the God of the Bible shows, or that we associate. In this passage, it shows esoterically what's really happening. It's all frequency. Job's journey was for him to tap into another level of understanding, another frequency, expanding his bandwidth through pressure. Right now, collectively, pressure, pressure. And maybe having us doubt, the abundance that Jupiter promises in Cancer. The planets make promises, but promises are not guarantees. Two different things. The promise is talking about potential. There is great potential for abundance with Jupiter and Cancer, but it can feel like it ain't there with the square from Saturn. And here we are tasked in the midst of this. And I know I'm blending stuff together because I'm jumping from, but I got to bring it into current time, like what's happening right now, because it's all frequency. We're all finding God where we're at based on the ability to tap into particular bandwidth or particular frequency. And what in essence is going on here it is spiritual adulthood. Because who you would be crying out to is part of the wager. And the wager is saying, or this this fight, if you will, is to see what you will become, which is why the title has in it G.O.D. G.O.D. That's from the great C. Freeman L., the master teacher. Generator, operator, destroyer. It's a realization of our responsibility and how we create our reality, which means then, okay, I got to choose what frequency I'm resonating with or operating at. Is this making sense? Y'all let me know. Peace, Rita G. Peace, that crazy. So I know I'm mixing up things here. That we're that when we talk frequency, we're seeing the relationship between what is good and bad. Um, we're talking about the realization of the flow of energy. Okay. Now, this is not, let me clarify too, that I'm not talking about some form of nihilism where you do just whatever because it's like there's no such thing as bad and there's no good. It doesn't matter. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about the sovereignty within and the responsibility of us to create our world. That's what we're talking about. So I wrote, when it comes to the concepts of good and bad, it comes down to what each individual cultural or political system determines to be the standard. And this is where we have a great issue. When you strip culture away, culture means behavior. When there's not a common behavior, the purpose of a culture is to give a template for how to help souls through humanity evolve into their God. But when you strip away culture and behavior, then the culture is then assumed and terraformed or metamorphosized into something else through a political system, then there's no tether, there's no commonality to give indication of how to move towards this realization of godhood. So then it has to be individual. There has to be an individual drive, an individual impetus, an individual ability to learn how to learn, to move towards this, to achieve this. So this thing here, when I say when it comes to concepts of good and bad, we're talking about the management of energy. It comes down to an individual basis. Many people right now are having to rewrite their history, especially their family history. They're having to go and take a script that has not been working, which means they have had to live through a life that presented enough trauma for them to realize the script don't work. Then they've had to then go to the next stage, which is to have the courage to ball up the script and throw it away. Then have to get to the next stage, whereas I pull out a piece of paper and a pencil and I start writing a new script, which means creating new cultural norms. It's not collective, it's individual, because nobody can hold your hand and help you get through because they got their own stuff. So so we're talking about now, again, back to uploading God, God, tapping into the frequency that you have determined through your toil matches yours. And then based on that, you write your script. This is part of what this is part of what is being opened up into the awareness and the consciousness with Uranus and Gemini. Look at what the earth is doing. It is just shaking, you know, um, just explosive, and just because look at what the sun is doing. And I can't do it justice. I don't have the the vocabulary for to describe that in those scientific terms. You know, Stefan Burns has been going crazy. Just I can't keep up with the he's charting just how the earth is just it's terraforming. Terra earth. The earth itself is terraforming. It's becoming something else. The sun is becoming something else. So now I want to shift to just peace prima donna, peace Kareen. Um, I want to shift to just some basic astrological things unfolding right now, because we are approaching here Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is stationing right now. So when a planet is stationing, it is appearing to slow down, because it has, when Mercury's retrograde, it has gotten to its farthest position from the sun, and it is moving, it's continuing to move through the zodiac, but it appears like it's going backwards, because we're looking at the sun seeming like it's going this way, and then Mercury starts here, and it seems to be retrograde? Well, because perception is so strong, it does have a literal effect on us here on this planet. And because retrograde brings the planet closer to the earth. So everything related to that planet is magnified. So this retrograde happens in Leo. Now, if you know anybody with Mercury and Leo, they tend to talk loud. My wife's a Leo, Mercury and Leo. She used to tell me, "You mumble." I said, "Well, you talk too loud." You know, my cousin, Leo, Mercury and Leo, loud. My man, my my homeboy, North Carolina, Leo, Mercury and Leo, loud. Because Mercury is, of course, in one regard, is our communication, and Leo is the sun. So Mercury and Leo, you are going to hear them at the equivalency of the sun shining is light. They are communicating the same explosive vibrance that the sun gives off visually, vocally. So we're all living through this right now as we transition into, well, we're coming to the end of Cancer and preparing to transition into Leo season. And now, peace, Terry. Um, and now here we go. What was that? Peace, thriving. And so now here we are with the retrograde beginning on the 17th. Now, in the midst of retrograde, because it is Mercury passing the sun, you're going to have a combust Mercury. From the 27th through the 30th, Mercury will be combust the sun. So, Mercury combust the sun is the sun deals with the heart and the thoracic part of the spine. So, and what do we already identify with Mercury in Leo? Loud, right? So when Mercury's combust the sun, it is from a traditional standpoint being burned up by the rays of the sun. So we might be have burning passion that has us say things in a heat of the moment or act irrationally in the moment. It can bring out childlike thinking. Mercury combusts the sun. Immaturity coming through in how we rationalize. In other words, maybe an inability to rationalize. But then by the 31st to August 1st, Mercury is in the heart of the sun. So you want to keep these dates so that if you can, 27, I'm going to leave myself a note, 27 through 30th. Don't get caught up, Jamal. And then on the 31st and August 1st, peace, divine rights. Um, peace, anointed hands. Um, so Mercury will be in the heart of the sun on the 31st of July and the 1st of August. Tune in at this time because Mercury is not just communication, it's listening. So maybe something occurs 27th through the 30th where we're not able to hear something because we may be too busy wanting to be heard. But on the 31st and the 1st, tune in and listen with your heart. Then August 2nd and 5th, Mercury's combust the sun again, but this is it's starting to separate. Let me see, because it stations. Yeah. It stations direct at 4 degrees on August 10th. And then by August 25th, Mercury will clear its shadow. And the shadow means that it goes beyond the 15-degree. I can't remember how many minutes that it was at. It'll be at when it turns retrograde. So when it goes beyond that point where it turned retrograde, that's when it clears its shadow. Now, while Mercury is in its retrograde phase, we will have a new moon at 2 degrees and 6 minutes of Leo. I think that happens on the 24th of July. So, so there's a lot going on. New moon in Leo while Mercury's retrograde in Leo. So here we go with what may feel like a false start. Your faith is being tested right now, especially on top of all this energy. We still got in the background Jupiter square Saturn. And I have been saying that this is a different square between Jupiter and Saturn because Jupiter is not in Gemini. It's not Gemini, Jupiter and Gemini square Saturn in Pisces. This is Pisces is the D of generator of G.O.D, generator operator destroyer. The mutable signs are the destructive part of the previous cycle. Saturn squaring Jupiter now is in the generator part, generator operator destroyer. And so this is not the same thing, but Saturn square Jupiter delayed results. Delayed results. Jupiter deals with faith. And so in the midst of that, then we got this retrograde, which makes all our communication more difficult. Then you got this new moon that is, it's in Leo, and it might get kind of blurred out because it may not even seem like, oh man, it ain't even worth planting no seeds right now. Ain't shit popping. Ain't nothing happening. Shit's all in a disarray. But see, by the time we have that new moon, what is also happening is that Mercury is moving back. It's not going to get to an exact sextile. Mercury's going to sextile that new moon, or should I no trine no conjunct, excuse me, conjunct. But Mercury is going to also be in a sextile to Uranus in its sign, Gemini. And this is what I'm talking about. In the midst of all this stuff going on, you must maintain your mental fortitude. Because Mercury harmonizing with Uranus while it's in its domicile. This is a chance for some type of aha, hmm, some type of fantastic idea that we have to make sure we don't overestimate and expect some fantastic thing to come out of it immediately because Jupiter and Saturn are still square each other. It's delayed. The results are delayed, but that does not mean that the results ain't coming. I hope y'all understanding what I'm saying. I hope I'm making sense. You 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 sit with the you have to sit and piece all this shit together. How everything is it's like building a watch. Everything, one thing's going this way, one thing going, and you trying to look at the you got to step out of it and look at the big picture. You got to bring all of your astrological vocabulary together. This planet, da 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 da. The basics. Learn astrology like you learned how to read. You started with the ABCs. Never doubt that. The basics. You build your language layer by layer by layer. Then you start to sit and look at how things are moving. Then you look at where they're moving in your own chart and what is being aspected. Then you can start kind of, okay, let me not lose my head over this, right? So, because what's going to happen, we're going to have a new moon in Leo. And then by August 1st, here come the damn, see all that August, people be like, there's a new moon. It's a time to plant seeds and set your intentions. Like if another month. So we got to be more nuanced. Because, okay, that's great. New moon. But guess what's going to come up? By August 1st, slap in the face. Because that moon will be in its first quarter square and it'll be in its fall in Scorpio. We're paranoid. We we're feeling obsessive. We are defensive. We're distrusting. We are maybe feeling some type of lack because the moon's exalted in Taurus because it expects to have. The moon is about growth and it's in Scorpio and it feels the reality of loss. So see what I'm saying? Test. We're getting tested. We're getting tested. We're getting tested. Your vision is getting tested. Your your foresight is being tested. And we gotta get through this summer and set our sights towards fall. Because fall, I'm projecting, will be when we are more able to see the fruits of Jupiter's expansion in Cancer. It's already there. The treasure's already there. But the main adversary that might have us contemplating that this thing may not come to fruition, Saturn, which is what Saturn does. It tests your will, tests your intestinal fortitude as it applies pressure to the planet that promises abundance. But those two will harmonize when we get into the fall. Latter part of October, early November, they're in a trine with each other because Saturn has to move back into Pisces. So keep that in mind to keep yourself rolling throughout this little period right here. So okay, I have jumped all over. So I'm gonna conclude kind of with this. We are radios, and God is the milieu of frequencies available for our radio dials to tune into. Uranus and Gemini will jolt us onto a new timeline, possibly several new timelines. More and more, it will become evident that rapid mental movement is required. Actually, it has always been required, but some will be forced into this realization. Still, others will never come to this realization in this lifetime and will sink deeper into the quicksands of time. Now I know I just went a complete 180. I went from talking about but watch the video again and you can get what you need to get out of it. God is a frequency. There's much more to say about all this. And as time goes on, I will be able to elaborate more. But the future is here. It's here. It's here. And it's time to upload. That's my new word, upload. I'm dead in all the manifestation. The word has been polluted all across the internet, you know. So now the new word is upload. We ain't manifesting. We just uploading. The files are already have been downloaded. I'm just uploading right now. I'm taking my time. I'm uploading detailed files, bringing them up, bringing them online. The Cash App is $. What is my Cash App? The Gnosis 77, I think. I don't know. I think that's what it is. Yeah. $, the Gnosis 77. The website is 720astrology.com. The readings can change your life. The coaching can change your life. The work is legitimate. The reviews are real from real people. And God is a frequency. Stay down till you get up. And when you get up, stay down. Know the stars to know yourself. Peace and blessings. Thank you, everybody. Thank all the moderators. Thank you, Black Butterfly. Thank you, Dat Crazy. Thank you, God Science. Uh, and everybody else. Thank y'all for joining in. Peace.